sit back and relax. You're listening to episode 260 of the WealthTech Today podcast. And I'm your host, Greg Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. And this podcast features interviews, news, and analysis around the trends and best practices all about wealth management technology. My guest for this episode was Adam Holt, founder and CEO of AssetMap. Now, Adam started AssetMap around 12 years ago, and he is still a financial advisor and has been a financial advisor for over 25 years. So he's got tremendous experience in the industry, and we've known each other for quite some time. In this episode, we spoke about some big news AssetMap recently announced with LPL Financial. We spoke about the evolution of financial planning software and how AssetMap is fitting into that process, and some new features on the roadmap. We spoke of some things that are coming down the pike for AssetMap. But before we get into all that, when we're talking about software features and functionality, here at Ezra Group, we're basically experts on everything around wealth management software, including financial planning, advice engagement tools like AssetMap, CRM, portfolio management, trading rebalancing, to name a few. We work with a lot of broker dealers, and one of the biggest problems they have is looking at their platforms, evaluating them, and understanding whether they are fine, they need to be improved, or they need to be replaced. That's a big process we work with a lot of broker dealers on, and we are very objective about that. We come at from the outside and understanding all different vendors and systems and functionality of broker dealer. We really have a great ability to help broker dealers deliver when it comes to their platform. So if you are working at a broker dealer and you are in charge of the tech platform, you need to run, not walk to our website, ezragroup.com, and click on the golden Contact Us button on the homepage. The experienced team at Ezra Group can come in and help you do a complete platform assessment and evaluation. We will come up, the output of that will be a presentation you can deliver to your board of directors or senior executive team to show them here's where the gaps are, here's the issues we have, here's what we can fix, here's what we can optimize, here's what needs to be replaced. Then we can even run the RFP process for you and bring in new software and implement it, deploy it across your organization. That's really what you're going to need. So you can schedule a free consultation by going to ezragroup.com. All right, a few quick housekeeping chores. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Please go check out our sponsor, the Invest in Others Charitable Foundation at investinothers.org. All right, now let's kick this thing off. Here we are. I'm excited to introduce my next guest. It is my good friend, Adam Holt, founder and CEO of AssetMap. What's up, Adam? How you doing, man?
How you doing, my friend Craig? Good to see you.
Adam. Good to see you.
We've become friends in industry, which is hilarious. It's not like we do karate together.
No, we don't do that. I've never seen you at the dojo.
No.
One day, maybe you'll show up at the dojo. We'll spar. We'll see how it goes. Besides the verbal sparring, we'll do physical sparring.
Well,
you're in Philly. You're at your office, your beautiful Philadelphia offices. I can see the guitars hanging on your wall.
Yeah. Everybody asks if this is my basement or my work from home office, but no, it's in fact my actual office. And I had to take all my guitars out of the basement during the old pandemic and put them up and start playing them. So yeah, that's why they're there.
That's nice. But you're not going to be in that office that's a Center City, Philadelphia office. You're not going to be there much longer.
I can't get everybody to come back to the office with almost 50 people on AssetMap's team. Nobody wants to come into the office. They want to stay at home and be productive, I guess. So I'm here by myself. So I decided to give up the office here and go buy myself a man cave, Craig. I don't know if I told you. I just settled last week on
awesome. Congrats.
On an artistic warehouse, which I'm moving all the companies to. So if they want to come see me, that's where I'm going to be.
What do you mean an artistic warehouse?
Well, it was previously a very famous artist here in Philadelphia decided to retire. I bought his studio and his showroom warehouse with all of his art in it.
Who's this famous Philadelphia
That's
artist?
Warren Muller.
Warren
he makes
Muller.
very well-known sculptor, makes corporate lighting sculptures, industrial sculptures. Imagine a whole bunch of metal mangled together and turned into a chandelier. So I have at least, 8 of them at the warehouse hanging from this massive ceiling. So it's a lot of fun. It's a really cool space. Hopefully people come visit me.
Well, is it on South Street?
No, it's in the Fishtown neighborhood of Philadelphia. So very cool area near all the restaurants and yeah. Who knows why I'm
Well, I'll
doing
be
it, but
there.
I'm doing
I'll stop by to see you. I want to see
it.
this
Good.
new space.
Good. We're gonna have events there, man. It's gonna be stellar.
No, sign me up.
Okay.
That's awesome. All right. So let's head over into the podcast topic here, which is Asset Map. Give us a 30-second elevator pitch for Asset Map.
Asset Map, gosh, a long project of mine that has helped millions now visualize their financial household on a single page or screen that's now evolved into a financial planning tool used by thousands of people around the world. It's actually been an amazing journey, and it's something that we think is going to change the industry for the better.
Nice. Yeah, that's it. That was a nice 30-second pitch. Yeah, we've seen it. It was the first application in the Keatsis Ezra Group map that we put into advisor experience or client experience because we didn't really know where to put it
Hmm.
because it's created its own category.
Advice engagement is the category as it's evolved today, is an interesting idea. And it's something I remember talking with Michael about also. And you know how he gets with debating those things. So the fact that you guys created a category around is great. And to see how many companies have jumped into that space, because I think for all of us that have been in some form of specialized financial planning for years, trying to find a place, we've kind of carved out our niche around the idea that an advisor has to do one thing really well, and that's engage with their client around an experience that hopefully earns them the right to do business with them long term. And it's at that point of sale or point of advice that we really need to excel today, unlike ever before. We can't really rely on the massive amount of analysis we can do and try to overwhelm clients with our intelligence. We got to actually get deep on what we're doing and how we're going to go forward.
And you were a former advisor, or you're still an advisor.
I call myself a recovering CFP, and I still have my CFP. I still do the CE, and I still pay my bills.
Right.
But yes, I actually have interest in a firm in Philadelphia that started 26 years ago, and we built a big asset management practice and insurance advisory and financial planning shop, and also business consultancy. So yes, I have my roots and fingers in the business, and Asset Map came out of the success of that company, quite ironically. And so I still think like an advisor and love the business at Craig.
I hear you. We love it too. This is all we do at Ezra Group is wealth management. So I totally get it. But you had some big news that just came out. Want to congratulate you on a deal with LPL. Tell me about
You
that.
believe that?
No, I
Well,
don't.
everybody, I
I
mean,
don't believe it.
it's funny. I was starting to worry, actually, frankly. It was a 6-year project to get that done. On my side alone, by the way, it was only 6 years for me and our team. LPL is obviously a very well-respected organization, just the largest in the field, as we all know, in the IBD side, and we have, I think, well over 30 broker dealers and large RIAs that use Asset Map and have approved it. So earning LPL's blessing on the affinity was a big deal for us. And it's interesting how the criteria for large organizations like that keeps expanding and gets more challenging, right? The infosec that you have to go through today, the enterprise level security, and the financial stability of a company. You can't just be a basement style company right out of a garage and expect to be on a platform that large. There's a lot of hoops to go through. And moreover than that, I think the big novelties in working with large platforms is the number of integrations that we have. I think it was 15 integrations with platforms that other LPL advisors use is kind of becoming table stakes, not only just because, you can't even get a seat at the table unless you have a really strong integration strategy, as you guys know very well at Ezra Group, given your integration scores. You got to show that you can actually pull it off. You can't just talk about having an open API. You got to actually have pulled off working integrations with tools that are being used. So it's interesting to see how it's evolving, Craig, in terms of getting on large platforms, the requirements you have to meet.
Well, Adam, speaking of integration scores, Asset Map has the highest score in the advice engagement category with a score of 8.75. Congratulations there as well.
Thank you. I saw that. That's pretty cool. We've been spending a good amount of time on integrations. Probably more importantly, been very selective, Craig, about integrations. The ones that really matter, I think, to Asset Map and seeing all that visualized data in one space is usually CRM, because we go down to the household, individual members, as well as entities, LLCs, trusts, and so forth. You need CRM, and then of course custodians. and sources of data from your bigger aggregators to direct custodians. But interesting, there's been some other fun ones. Plan just did an integration with us. That's really unique. We can now facilitate the scanning of the tax returns and then use Plan's data to get.
Plan.
Thank you. I can't even speak today. Plan.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Take Plan's tax feedback and actually embed it right in Asset Map. That's pretty cool. So imagine looking at a visualization of your entire household, all your financial instruments, insurance, assets, and so forth. Click on your person, yourself, and all of a sudden you can see the tax feedback on marginal rates and AMT and all that other fun stuff. Really, really cool utility that they have, and we're going to be expanding that concept.
And I know with the LPL affinity program, how difficult it is. We've had people from LPL on, including the head of their technology partnerships was on the program, I think 2 years ago, talking about how difficult it is to get into the affinity program because everybody wants to get into it because, it's sort of a gateway into the rest of the platform and into their advisors, but they're very picky because you have to have integrations that fit with everything else in what they believe is the strongest tech stack.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's like talking about, getting your product from Shark Tank onto the big box store, right? It's a different level of distribution when you can get in this, or that they have pretty high criteria. And that's good. That's the way you want it to be. I think we're going to actually see it get harder and harder, despite the fact you and I know, right? Your own fintech map is, tripled and quadrupled in size. The number of companies that are coming out. I unfortunately think that a lot of them will, with although great ideas, are not going to make it. And the reason is because there's just so much scrutiny around, we'll call it product market fit and penetration. I've seen many smaller companies, great ideas, great utilities. They're not going to get the funding, or they're not going to get the traction because nobody wants to take a risk that, gosh, my reputation is based on your success. So it's interesting. It's posing a very challenging situation for new tech coming on the street, unless it's just that novel.
There are over 550 applications now on the Keatsis Ezra Group Advisor Tech Solutions map, which you can find at keatsis.com. And so I've been working with Michael on that for 3 years now, maybe 4 years, but he started it a couple of years before that. And when he first started in 2017, I think there were only 150 or so applications, and now there's 550.
I think there were less. I actually showed it on main stage in 2018 as an example. I want to say there was like 60.
I don't know about that. I think
I'll
it's
tell you. All right, we'll look it up.
Wrong.
We'll do an error. We'll do a fact check in our debate.
We'll check that. Somebody fact check us. I can tell you that there's 11 applications in the advice engagement category, including Asset Map.
Nice.
So definitely, but a lot of those applications, there were more. I think there were at least 15 or 20, but we've kind of moved them out as they have sort of pivoted into other areas, and they've been shifted into other parts of the map. And I know you guys are taking a look at this, and you're seeing some changes in the industry. What kind of trends are you seeing that's causing you to change the strategy around Asset Map's functionality?
Well, maybe I can convince the two of you guys to change your categories, because it's interesting. The financial planning, as I said, I'm a recovering financial planner. For many years, the financial planning that we provided to clients was based upon the technology solution that we had available to us, right? So if you're using one of the bigger three financial planning tools, these are very robust tools. They can do enormous amounts of things. And so I would say, for the most part, what we delivered to the client was limited to what those tools actually did and how we knew how to use them, which was typically asset allocation, maybe a vault, retirement planning, a burn down Monte Carlo, these style of things. And so I think they actually wound up shaping financial planning and what it was. And we saw an enormous number of advisors flock from product and asset-based sales to advice, and then they just installed a financial planning tool. But they weren't able to implement it. And the best example I can give you is the enterprise adoption of financial planning, which pretty much every major company has today. They have a financial planning outlet. They're only seeing 10 to 20% market penetration of their own clientele in financial planning. They're not getting the adoption that they thought they would get, despite the fact that we all know financial planning drives better asset gathering, longer retention, better cross-sell, referrals, all these things. So how are they only getting 20% at best penetration, unless they're a fee-based, financial planning tool, shop only? And the reason is because it's just so daunting. It's so difficult to deliver a comprehensive plan because of the amount of data, the complexity it takes from the client, the time involved. Kitces even claims it takes 10 hours on average to do a true financial plan. And advisors, their ADD gets in, well before that, in addition to the client's kind of propensity to just follow through. So we think it's really challenging to scale traditional financial planning. And so what I think is advice engagement is actually shaping the next generation of what financial planning is going to become. And it's going to be deeply conversational. Certainly, there's going to be needs for specific analysis, but with this new robo AI movement, I am pretty convinced that the analytical function that we've relied upon so long is going to basically become commoditized. All these tools on the analytics side, Craig, are going to do the same basic stuff, answer the same basic prompt or question, which is, am I okay? What do I need to do about it? And so it's going to put a lot of pressure on the financial advisor to deliver the conclusion, deliver confidence, and go deep and wide. That means be able to not just talk about investments, insurance, and retirement, but talk about legal and tax constructs, and talking about next generation in estate and family generational wealth, and talk about businesses and property casualty, and help make banking decisions. So I think the financial planner of the future is going to be an advocate with many tools available to them, but they're going to have to expand, I think, the idea of what financial planning is, and it's going to be deeply conversational, right? In other words, human by design. It's got to be really human and relevant.
We're seeing AI mimic human conversations better and better. So
Totally.
advisors are going to be pressured from the bottom to force them up the food chain, similar to how robo-advisors did. Robo-advisors didn't put advisors out of business, but it pushed them up the food chain. They needed to do more and more. They couldn't just sit there and charge 100 basis points for building a basket of ETFs. Well, it's going to be the same. Now you're not going to be able to charge the same for a financial plan, or say, hey, we're financial planning led. Well, I'll be able to get that through AI in lots of different areas. So you're going to need to provide.
Yeah, no, and I think it's going to be free. I mean, we're talking about analytics level that is equivalent to free, just like ETF is equivalent to free, no commissions, no trades. We've literally commoditized with technology some of the things we've held out from on margin. I think there are going to be areas, and I think Joe Duran said it great back in 2014 of all times. He said in an article in Investment News, said that when people have to make financial decisions that are either complex or have a high cost of being wrong, they typically want a human, and that goes back for thousands of years, right? Whether it's asking the local pastor or priest, or going and talking to your cousin who's been successful in business, we tend to want human validation. So I think as much as the tech is going to provide us some mathematical and analytical confidence, we all know that no one's going to predict the future. So can you help me make a good decision today? And I generally want some confidence that someone else is on the hook with me. And as best interest advice, of course, expands, and those, I will call it clarity around fiduciary roles. I think that the very best financial advisors that can, of course, keep the margins and probably grow their business are going to be the ones that are just indispensable to their clients for making decisions. And that's going to be the key. Quality decisions is really what matters long term. Can you create a scalable but yet personalized experience for that? And that's where AssetMap really wants to live.
You mentioned that enterprise wealth management firms are only seeing 10 to 20% market penetration of financial planning software, adoption of financial planning software. So do you see AssetMap as being an option that they can use that will get much more adoption because it's easier to use, but provides 80% of the value?
Several of the large enterprises, large being anywhere from 100 to 3,000 advisors that are using AssetMap, are seeing 70 to 80% voluntary adoption of AssetMap. It's destroying traditional financial planning. The good thing about it is that they're actually able to work in conjunction with each other. And the reason is because where we've excelled in AssetMap is early data collection from the client through our discovery, and then instant household visualization so you can get on the same page. Is this true? Is this what your household looks like? Are these all the people that matter, the entities, the things you've invested in, the things you forgot about? Is this what your life looks like? That validation process. And then our quick and easy feedback to say, hey, in 30 seconds, I can tell you whether we're on track for retirement, education, funding, loss of life, all these scenarios that traditional financial planning tools tend to run. but let's run it in seconds instead of hours. And then decide from a financial triage standpoint, which direction we need to go. Do we need to go for a full MRI? Let's, take me to a traditional planning tool. Okay, we need to do the 10 hours because we need to explore something here. Or is this just a triage situation? You know what? You need to start saving. You need some insurance. I need to get you need a will. Can we start doing that? And I think that's why when you see voluntary adoption in the 80% range, it's because it's easy and it comes and has better outcomes in the amount of time invested. And I think that's the key. We're finding we're actually driving more traditional financial planning because we're teeing up the right families that need full planning and also engaging those that never would have gotten financial planning in the first place. And that's uncovering assets. It's uncovering idle capital. It's uncovering poorly sold previous policies and annuities. And it's enabling the advisor to come in and just fix it. Let's just clean house. And it's a great opportunity on the revenue side for those that monetize that way. And that's why we're seeing significant lifts in revenue alongside that adoption.
Can't ask for a better ROI than that. Revenue lift from deploying software that gets 70, 80% voluntary adoption.
Crazy. It's fantastic. Look, it's what we saw in our firm, and the practice that I started this in, we saw 300% growth per year, just from AUM growth. And I'm not talking organic; we're talking new assets as well as insurance and annuity placement. And we saw that year over year, and that was a clear indication that we were onto something. Even 15 years ago. It's interesting to see, though, that the high net worth space has always valued simplicity of their complexity. And almost expect it today. We're seeing that luxury of 15 years ago becoming a necessity because technology is allowing that scale, right? We didn't have the ability to do that, for everybody because it took so much time. But today we can create a visualization very quickly. And now we can even give clients access to their own asset map through our portal. So there's been some really interesting innovations, Craig, that advisors have never really ever seen before that we're starting to double down on.
When you said that traditional financial planning tools have 10 to 20% adoption, but Asset Map is 70 to 80%. But you said you can work in conjunction with financial planning tools. So now I'm confused. Where does Asset Map fit into the advisor tech stack, and why do they need it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say there's two ways to think about this. There are the financial planning tools that are really front office. There are financial planning experiences, I would call them, not even tools. And then there are financial planning tools that are really back office, paraplanner, analyst, deep research, connotated with huge output, PDF output or paper that we use to support the decisions or recommendations we're making for clients. Asset Map is really a great early financial prospecting tool, right? Early, I don't know anything about you, Craig. I'm not going to put you through a whole colonoscopy. Let's just do an X-ray and a blood test. Okay. Let's just kind of build this visualization together really fast, figure out how we can help you. So it's really being used very, very often in the front end of that engagement experience, like first onboarding, we'll call it. Figure out where we fit together. It's really used again at the annual reviews when we get together and we say, okay, this is the picture we understand of you. Is this still accurate? Who's changed? What are you going? Did you ever move that money to trust? Did you get the wills in order? Do we still have these 401ks that we left at old employers? Like, has anybody checked out this annuity? What are you paying for it? Right. So the check-in to say, here's what your financial closet looks like. Is our knowledge still accurate? Turns out that most of that information, Craig, is still in the client's head. It's not aggregated anywhere, despite all these aggregation platforms. Client knows that they made an investment with their brother-in-law on a real estate deal down the street. I'm not going to find that in any aggregator. So it turns out some of the better conversations happen when we ask the client, well, by the way, what's it worth and what are you doing about it? Why is it there? Is there intention behind it? And that allows the advisor to say, you know what, have you thought about this or that or this strategy? Or, you know what, I got to bring in my expert on tax because he's dealt with that before, my in-house CPA. Like we need to bring them in. We need to look at this. We're finding more opportunity to serve the household on questions they didn't know to ask. The irony behind the AI, as you know well, is that it's all about the quality of the prompt, all about the quality of question. You ask bad questions, you're going to get bad answers. You ask good questions, you're going to get actually excited. because the answer that it starts to bring to the table is actually cumulatively productive to your overall well-being. And I think that's where human advisors, if you know what questions to ask, I think you can be really, really impactful. So in conjunction, our biggest crossover, interestingly enough, is actually e-money. A lot of people use Asset Map and e-money together as a kind of a fantastic kind of engine behind the hood in e-money, and then they'll use Asset Map in the front office for engagement.
That's interesting. Why do you think e-money is the biggest crossover?
I think that the truists who have used e-money for the past 10 years or so, there are a lot of advisors that went to financial planning many years ago and decided to integrate that concept. A very robust tool, very capable. It's been around the longest, I would say, in terms of the highly credible financial planning tools. And so Asset Map really fills a gap that e-money just didn't address, which is, can you simplify this fantastic complexity? And so I think that's why you see the greatest crossover. You did see Money Guide Pro actually built an integration to us. So that exists today, and you can actually push from Money Guide to Asset Map. And
that's
of course,
unique. They don't build to anybody.
That is unique.
Yeah, you build to them. They don't build to you.
That is true. That is true. And I think we solved a problem that they were starting to see, is that there was demand for Asset Map, and they decided to play with us, which was really great to see. And I think that's a really cool. So if you have a lot of data in Money Guide, you can visualize it now in Asset Map, and on a one-way push from Money Guide as the golden record. But when you think about it, because we integrate with so many common tools like Redtail or Riskalyze, Nitrogen, or now actually Adapar is integrated with us. So some interesting new sources of data that you can put in front of your clients.
That is excellent. And I want to give you some time. I want to talk about features coming down the roadmap beyond just the signals and stencils and target maps that you've got now. What one thing I like that we were seeing a lot of our clients that are using Asset Map that they are surprised about is the tracking and monitoring, because they thought, well, it's just a picture, but it's not static. So there is some tracking and monitoring built in, and that surprises a lot of clients, and they really like that. Can you talk about how that works?
Yeah, it's always so funny to me how many features we have in Asset Map, and people, call it the same thing. It's like saying Google Maps is just for seeing kind of like where you are on the road. I mean, I guess if that's how you use it, then that's the utility you get, fine. But you can overlay traffic. You can have it project what routes to take. You could say how many stars the nearest bar has, or what the price
for restaurants.
Use it for restaurants. Okay, there you go. So you can even look at the menus inside of Google Maps, right? Or phone call them directly, or send your PIN to somebody. There's an enormous amount of functionality, and just the same as in Asset Map.
So you're going to add menus?
I was thinking about
restaurants,
actually. Well, so you can click on any part of the Asset Map, fully interactive, view it differently, view just me and my partner, or my kids, or my trusts and my business partners. So you can look at things visually differently, and everything is clickable. So you click on any instrument. I can click on a 401k instrument. I can see its risk score on Nitrogen. I can see its value on Morningstar and the holdings. I can see its Dropbox account statement. So just by clicking right on an instrument. So we're talking about in-your-face access to zoom in and zoom out and change the view whenever you want, right? You want satellite, you want street level, what do you want? So Asset Map is going to focus more and more on how we create a single interactive pane of glass to get more and more information to go deep or wide. And that's really important, because advisors are going to elevate themselves on being able to help navigate, be the Sherpa, be the guide on this trap. But I show you, I got a pretty cool map that allows me to connect to all these data sources. So some of the things that we've gotten requests for recently is, hey, you know what? If you're going to be holistic, and you got assets, liabilities, insurance, and cash flows, people and entities, what about legal documents? So we are about to release legal documents in Asset Map. So you can see visually, you have a will or you don't have a will. You don't have a guardianship. You have a living will, but you don't have a power of attorney. Like, we need to be able to show that to clients. Say, hey, where is that, by the way? Where do you have it? No, you don't have it.
How are you gathering that? Is that all manually entered, or is it pulling from somewhere?
Yeah. Look, I can ask you, Craig, do you have a will? Yes, no. I mean, we're actually finding that it's faster to ask the client, do you have a will? Do you have a power of attorney? And for them to say one of three things: yes, okay, great. No, okay, or what is that? And either way, we win as advisors because we can now solve it, check it off, or we can educate. And the key for that in pretty much all those things, it's like, hey, do you have a Roth IRA? Yes, no, or what is that? Right.
Mm.
I mean, so there are things that I think that we can use to facilitate a conversation as opposed to judgment. And that means I'm not trying to scan it. Look, other companies are going to do that, right? You got companies like Holistipan and FP Alpha, and these guys are doing a great job scanning documents and telling you what it is. But that's not the problem that we're trying to solve. We're trying to say you have it or you don't. It needs review or it's okay, right? Do I need to put hours behind this or can we just move on? And I think that's the key of being intentional. The other things we're focusing on, Craig, are how do you communicate the current state of beneficiary designations? Does anybody really know where the money's going? I mean, I don't think most people know.
So
And they just
is that
assume.
more like estate planning?
Well, it's part of estate planning. I think estate planning is just trying to optimize the outcome of an estate. Do you know what 90% of the problems are in estates?
That people
They
are living too long?
Go ahead. No, that would be longevity planning. That's like long-term care planning. The biggest problem with estate planning is people don't have their documents. Okay, so that's number one. Their stuff is going to be a mess and everybody's going to hate their name. Okay, despite loving them for their whole life, they're going to be cursing them. Where is everything? So the first thing we have to do is we have to inventory all their finances, AKA asset map. The second thing we need to do is we need to make sure their documents are in order. The third thing we need to know is we need to make sure that the beneficiary designations match their intentions and nobody's checking that. Meanwhile, all the estate planning tools are basically saying, well, let me show you what your estate tax is going to be. Okay, that affects 2% of the population. So the key is that we have to start with the basics if we're going to try to get healthier. And advisors need to ask that question in every single engagement. So when you're asking the question of, wait, shouldn't I just do a financial plan? The financial plan doesn't address the immediate problem that you do not have a will and you have not checked your beneficiary designations on your IRAs. Let's fix that now. We can do that. And I think that's the key. So when you ask, are we doing estate planning? You're darn right. We're doing financial planning and estates should be part of it every time. The fact that it's been absent for so long is kind of silly to us. So I think get organized, get clarity, get intentionality, and then we'll try to optimize the tax implication after you get the basics in order. So, right, you learn stretch, then you learn warm up, then you learn the punching and the kicking. You don't go right to kicking and punching, right? You know that as a black belt.
We never let anybody do right to punching and kicking, no.
That's right. You learn probably blocking before you learn punching.
Yeah, there are some basics there. You got to learn all the basics in karate before you move up.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The basics.
So
blocking and tackling.
You've covered so much in this episode, and we're out of time. So where can people listening find out more about Asset Map?
Well, you can certainly Google map it, or you could just go to asset-map.com and you could learn all about it. And of course, we're pretty prolific on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me, that's the way to do it.
Asset-map.com. Adam, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thanks for all you do in the industry, Craig.
Hey, it's Craig again. Here are my top 3 takeaways from this episode. All right, Asset Map recently joined LPL Financial's Affinity program, as Adam mentioned, after a 6-year process. Man, that's a long time. Now, this signals a strong validation from LPL as to Asset Map's future functionality. We've done a lot of talking about LPL's Affinity program just because of LPL being one of the largest broker-dealers in the country, and any vendors who get into the Affinity program have access to their very large advisor base. So if you look at some early podcasts, if you do LPL Financial search at WealthTech.com, WealthTechToday.com, you can see some of the other episodes we've had around LPL and their Affinity program. It's a really interesting program if you are a software vendor looking to break into LPL. Second takeaway, financial planning is evolving to be more conversational and human-centric as AI commoditizes analytical functions. We've seen Asset Map, I think Adam may have mentioned this, that it's somewhat of an onboarding tool for financial planning because of Asset Map's ability to gather data, gather information from end investors. That data can then be plugged into whatever financial planning tools you happen to be using. So it's a good companion for that. Third takeaway, Asset Map is seeing 70 to 80% voluntary adoption rates among advisors versus 10 to 20% for traditional planning tools. And we can validate that here at Ezra Group. Again, we work with a lot of broker dealers, and 10 to 20%, 25% maybe for optional tools, obviously not for required tools, but for optional tools like sometimes CRM is optional, financial planning tools are optional, other advice engagement tools are optional. Those types of tools tend to have a very low adoption rate. So 70 to 80% is just mind-boggling, because we work with broker dealers that hire us at Ezra Group for our software adoption practice, where we come in and help them learn how to increase adoption rates among advisors. So delivering 70 to 80% voluntarily is tremendous. And here's a bonus takeaway. Some new AssetMap features coming down the pike are focusing on legal document tracking, beneficiary designations, and holistic household visualization. So if you're an AssetMap client, you're going to get that. If you're not, you should sign up at assetmap.com and you can get those functionality and features. Well, you've made it to the end of the episode of the WealthTech Today podcast. Thanks for listening. But before you go, please go to our website, ezragroup.com. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, information, and updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.